Welcome to Insights into Northeast Michigan, a WBKB News public affairs program. Insights deals with the issues affecting those within the community, as well as Northeast Michigan and the state. And now, Insights into Northeast Michigan.
Welcome to Insights. I'm Sherry Stewart. This week we turn our attention to the upcoming August and November elections. Secretary of State Joycelyn Benson has announced that all registered voters in Michigan will receive an application to vote by mail. Well, joining me to start the conversation is Doris Fay. She is the co-president of the League of Women Voters of Northeast Michigan, and she shares that role as co-president with Pauline Buckner. Doris, I want to thank you for joining me today.
I appreciate the invite.
And I know we've spoken many times in the past, and so we just want to remind everyone that the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization. So we know that our Secretary of State Joycelyn Benson announced that all registered voters in Michigan will receive an application to vote in the August and November elections. So your thoughts on that?
I think that's a wonderful idea. This is now an option for any voter. Prior to 2018, you had to have a valid reason to apply for an absentee ballot, whether illness or being away or being a senior citizen. And now anyone can get an absentee ballot. And I think given the issues with this coronavirus, that anyone who prefers to not venture out to a polling place has the option, and the state will be sending out the applications. My own feeling is that's kind of a break for local governments, because that would be a huge postage cost. And now the local townships won't have to bear that if the state is taking care of that out of funds.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Is that somehow end up being a cost savings for our local polling places? Say they may not have to have as many people manning, say, polling booths, do you think?
That's an excellent idea. I don't know if that will be a cost savings. My guess is that there may be people who still prefer to vote in person. I know a lot of people like to do that. It may mean they won't have to have as many workers. Certainly the postage costs being borne by the state, I think, would be an advantage for local governments. This is all new, uncharted territory, so we will have to wait and see. I did see an editorial, it's probably been a month now, from the Alpena News urging everyone to vote absentee. And I think that is the safest choice at this time. We do know that some voters in Wisconsin contracted the virus from being out and about. So I don't know. My first recommendation is be informed and vote, because there is so much at stake. There is a lot going on. Absolutely. And this is a huge election.
Absolutely. And just to clarify, so you're not actually receiving the ballot, but you're actually receiving the application. So walk us through that process. Correct. So once you receive the application, what happens next, Doris?
Well, then you will fill it out. And now you don't have to have a reason. You just need to request it. You put down your registered address. If you will not be home and you need the ballot mailed somewhere else, you would put down the address where you want to send it to. And this is very important. There are safeguards. You do need to sign the application, and the clerk will check the signature against your registration. So there has been some concern about voter fraud, but there are other states who have done total mailing elections. Utah, I believe Washington does it, and I think Colorado also does it. And they've been doing it for some time. So they've worked out the kinks, and hopefully that this will be our first huge one. My main concern, I think, would be that in August it is a primary, and people need to remember they cannot cross parties. They need to pick one party and only vote in their slate of officers so that we would not have a spoiled ballot.
And that's very important to know. And so, as you say, this is uncharted territory. So there will be about 7 million or so of these applications going out. That's how many registered voters that we have so far in the state of Michigan. So again, uncharted territory. Do you foresee this being the wave of the future as we still maneuver COVID-19 and other challenges that we face?
Actually, I do. I think I certainly would not want someone to not vote because of fear of the virus. I think that would be a tragic mistake. So I do see this as a wave of the future. And this is not a partisan issue. The states I mentioned tend to be, I mean, they're both red and blue and purple from time to time. So we just want people to vote. And I did think of something else I wanted to bring up. When you ask for an absentee ballot, there is a box that you can check and request to be put on a permanent list. And I did that probably 2 years ago. And if it's okay, I'd like to share why. Sometimes the ballots are long and complicated, especially during a presidential year. There's all of the university trustees and this board and that board. And before I voted absentee, there were times when I thought, oh my goodness, I don't recognize these names. And I have voted every election, and I'd like to think I'm an informed voter, but sometimes you just need to do a little more research. And for me to be able to get the ballot and not feel rushed, thinking there's somebody behind me, or they're going to wonder why I'm taking so long at the polls. I do miss seeing poll workers because that was always sweet, and seeing people out exercising their right. But there is something to be said for really taking your time with a ballot. And if you don't want to make the decision right now, set it down, go get a cup of coffee and think about it. So that's why I like to vote absentee. But I also have previously worked elections, and I worked in 2018, and I just love seeing people come out to vote. So I think this is a wave of the future just because we don't know right now where the future is going.
Right, right. Well, I love that you shared that story, Doris. I have some more questions for you about the absentee ballot voting process, and we'll discuss that when we come back from this break. We'll be right back.
Insights will return after these messages.
Welcome back to Insights. We're continuing our conversation with Doris Fay. She is the co-president of the League of Women Voters of Northeast Michigan. And as we were heading to break, Doris, you were telling me about the reasons why you like to vote absentee, having a little bit more time to research and review the ballot. And so that's been very helpful for you.
Oh, I also wanted to add that not every clerk maintains a permanent absentee application list.
Okay.
My understanding is a lot of them in this area do, and I am on that list, so I automatically get an application. Now, if the clerk does not maintain such a list, they need to let you know so that you know if you want to be, if you always want to receive an absentee ballot application, it will be on you to contact your clerk. And I would ask for it 6 weeks ahead of time. Just make sure you give them enough time, because you're mailing, you have to fill it out, you have to send it back, it's mailed out. And absentee ballots must be returned. The clerk must receive them before the polls close. So again, you need to have some extra time for mail service.
Right, that was going to be my next question to you. What is the deadline? Once you have submitted your application for the absentee ballot, you receive the ballot, you're able to take your time completing it, making your selection as you choose, but you have to have the ballots have to be received in the clerk's office. Is it by 8 p.m. when the polls close?
8 p.m.
By 8
That's
p.m. the
correct.
close, okay, absolutely. We want to make sure that people understand that.
And I also want to say there is something very precious about someone's absentee ballot. I don't know how else to say it.
Mhm.
So don't just give it to anyone. The law stipulates who can return your ballot. It needs to be an immediate family member, and make sure you sign your ballot envelope. So there's another safeguard. There has been some talk about fraud. My own opinion is those concerns, I am more concerned about people not voting than people voting fraudulently. I was clerk for 10 years and I never saw it. But you need to sign your ballot, otherwise they cannot count it. The ballot must be at the polls by 8 o'clock on election day. So if you're mailing it, my goodness, mail it in early. Make sure.
You
And
can
you will
mail
need
it,
postage.
right, you can mail it or you can walk it into the clerk's office.
That is correct. That is correct.
Absolutely. And I know you were saying, I know certainly that you're so passionate about people voting. You were telling me that you believe it's not only a right, but it's a duty to be involved in our political process.
Absolutely. As a citizen of this country, you have certain responsibilities. And I find it very sad when people say, well, I don't have time to find out about that or research that, or I don't know anything about that. I think that's sad. I don't think that's the right attitude to take, because it's not just our future, it's our children. I have grandchildren, it's their future too.
Absolutely. Do you have any programs or educational workshops coming up this year? I know earlier this year your organization, you held a couple of informational workshops for the community. Do you have anything on your calendar as we get towards the end of the summer or the end of the year?
Well, before the end of the summer, we are in the stages of planning a Zoom candidate forum.
Okay.
And we actually had a Zoom meeting of our local board of the League of Women Voters of Northeast Michigan.
Mhm.
All considering, I think it went well.
Okay.
I think a lot of people who use Zoom have shared my feeling that sometimes it doesn't work as well as you hope.
Mhm.
But we brainstormed different ideas. What can we do? We want to make sure that the public has a chance to meet the candidates,
Sure.
virtually or otherwise.
Mhm.
So we talked about different ideas. I can't say for sure what it will be.
Okay.
We thought, I don't even know what venues may be open in July, but we are looking at some kind of voter candidate, forum in July,
Okay.
either virtually or spread out. We even brainstormed, well, could we use the band shell? Could we just spread everybody out? But of course, we will have to follow what the state guidelines are, and we will have to see what our options are. But we certainly intend to do everything we can to get the information out there. Vote411.org is up and running. Whenever there is a contested race, it is nonpartisan, but they will ask both candidates questions and post the answers. So I hope we get back to in-person things. I miss seeing people, the real deal.
Mhm.
But in the meantime, the election will go on. So stay tuned. We hope to have information out there for you.
Could you give me the website again? I'm not sure if we actually got that. What's the website?
It is vote411.org to get nonpartisan information.
Sure.
There is also a state voting information site, michigan.gov. And this is really, I'm not a tech person, but it's a nifty deal. You can see if you are registered to vote. You can find the menu If you are not registered to vote, you can register electronically. So you don't have to go in person to the Secretary of State or your clerk's office, or the county clerk's office. You can register to vote online.
Isn't that?
So, I think it's wonderful. I think it is really wonderful. And I would just encourage everyone, check to make sure you're registered. And if you want to vote in person, that will tell you who your clerk is and where your polling place is. It is a real service to have that online.
Absolutely. Well, Doris, I want to thank you for spending time with us today. You shared so much helpful information for us about voting and the new process with the applications coming in the mail that we can expect to see, I guess, in the next couple of weeks, and decide if we want to vote absentee or not. But we really appreciate you sharing all this great information as always.
Thank you. May I share one more thing? Because I am on the list, my local clerk, who's terrific, I received my application yesterday.
Excellent. Okay.
Now, my guess is, but I don't know. I just want to let people know, if I get another application, don't worry, you're only allowed to vote once. And the clerks know what they are doing. So they're only going to send out one ballot. The records are checked, double checked, triple checked. A lot of people who are not familiar with what goes on before and after the polls open and close, those workers are amazing. They are there 2 to 3 hours after the polls close to make sure everything is checked in triplicate, sealed, and you don't have to worry about voter fraud. There are safeguards in place. Just make sure you're registered and you vote.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful information, Doris. We'll talk with you soon.
Insights will return after these messages.
Welcome back to Insights, and joining me now is Julie Uribe, who is the treasurer for a new political action committee that has come on board in Caledonia. So Julie, I want to thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me.
And so the name of the new political action committee is Caledonia 2020. So tell me about the formation and how long you guys have been in existence and what you hope to accomplish in this new venture.
Okay, the name of our political action committee is Caledonia 2020, and Caledonia Township is a small township just south of Alpena. There's been several residents recently in the last year that have had ongoing issues, unfortunately, with the township board, and we have not been able to solve some of these issues. And so it was important for us, with the election coming up this August and November, to find a group of candidates, to find individuals who really were committed to understanding the community and wanted to engage the taxpayers and constituents in decisions. This was one of the issues that we had, and so the Political Action Committee has formed. We actually formed in March this year. We're not that old.
So what are you plan to do? So what will the Political Action Committee do? What will you be able to, I guess, execute with your new formation?
Sure. With the formation of the Action Committee, we will be endorsing candidates that we feel will be committed to the future of the township by understanding and embracing the different issues at hand. Because Caledonia Township has Hubbard Lake, which of course is a very popular area. So you have individuals here that are not voters, however, they are property owners and taxpayers. And then you also have individuals who are here year-round. So although everyone is providing input, sometimes the township board, in our experience, has not been understanding the needs of some of those individuals. Our hope is that the candidates that we are endorsing with the PAC will be more open-minded to hear the voices of everyone, whether there be a voter or potentially a property owner, again, a taxpayer.
So what is the process for starting the Political Action Committee? Educate us on that.
Well, I have to tell you, Sherry, I never imagined that I would even be attempting something like this. But I did some research online, of course, and I found what had to happen is I created this Political Action Committee, and you register it locally with your county clerk. And so I worked with the Alcona County Clerk, who has been wonderful, and she registers the business. I also then have a tax identification number from the federal government, as well as the state of Michigan. There is a specific depository. I've chosen to use a credit union locally. And so once all of that information is complete, then that information is forwarded to the state of Michigan, to the Secretary of State Elections Bureau. Okay. The benefit of a political action committee is we can solicit contributions to support and endorse our candidates in any decision or any ballot proposal that my group finds important and beneficial to the community.
Now, do you operate as a nonprofit organization? Does it operate as a business? How does it operate?
That's a great question. It's not necessarily a nonprofit. It is considered a business by the state of Michigan. Okay. And it's interesting too, because with all of the coronavirus, social distancing and a lot of the state offices closed, it's been a challenge, but we're ready to go and we're rolling. We're very fortunate because we have a really talented group of people who have come from all walks of life, who bring a different perspective to this group. And we have a terrific website, and we have just a great group of people who have contributed their talents and time to mailings, to promotional materials, to getting the word out, not only about the Political Action Committee, but about how important it is to be aware of local politics, how they really affect you. It's something that I never thought I'd be ever interested in. But when it affects you, it motivates you to learn more and to do more. And so for me, it's been a really interesting experience.
Well, we were just talking earlier with Doris Fay, who is with the League of Women Voters for Northeast Michigan. And we were talking earlier about how our Secretary of State will be sending out applications to vote absentee. So what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that that's certainly a good idea to get more people engaged in the process? Some may not feel comfortable going to the polls in these upcoming elections. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I think it's tremendous. I think that actually, given the unknowns, we don't know what will happen even with the federal election at this point. So I'm encouraging my family, friends, and anyone, in Caledonia Township to look at and make the application for absentee balloting. We don't know where we're going to be a month from now. We don't know what will happen. So I think certainly it's the safest mode right now. And again, the one thing that Caledonia 2020 is committed to is to making sure people vote. No matter which way you vote, what's important is that we're all involved in this process. And social media, of course, we talked a little bit about that a while ago, makes a difference because the message on social media may not be what the truth may be. And so again, that local interaction and working face-to-face and attending board meetings, whether it be city, township, county, whatever it might be, it's crucial to a voter to have that knowledge. But absolutely, I would absolutely encourage people to look at absentee balloting. One of the challenges we have as an action committee is to look at what will happen with door-to-door. Sure. Because we would like to reach out to the community, Caledonia Township, Spruce, Hubbard Lake, and meet people door-to-door. The thing is that we don't know what the governor's parameters will be, if in fact we'll be allowed to do that, or if people would be comfortable with it.
Right. Social distancing, the requirements have certainly changed a lot. And certainly, not just the political process, but obviously in media, we're doing most of our interviews via a Zoom or some other technology. So it has really changed and upended life as we previously knew it. Well, Julie, I want to thank you for joining us today to tell us about the new Political Action Committee, sharing your thoughts on the reason why and what you guys hope to accomplish. So it's been a great conversation. Thank you for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Sherry.
Well, that's all we have for you this week. If you have a question, comment, or story idea for us at Insights, send us an email at news@wbkb11.com. I'm Sherry Stewart. Have a great week.
Insights into Northeast Michigan is produced by WBKB News. This has been a production of Thunder Bay Broadcasting Corporation. All rights reserved.